Therizinosaurus was one of the strangest dinosaurs that ever walked the earth. While most giants were built to bite, chase, and tear apart their prey, this one looked like something from another world. It stood tall on two legs, its body covered with feathery hair instead of scales. But what really made it famous were its arms, each longer than a human body, ending in curved claws as long as swords. No one could believe those claws belonged to a plant eater. When scientists first found them in Mongolia in the 1940s, they thought they belonged to a massive meat eater, maybe even a new kind of raptor. It took decades before they realized the truth. Therizinosaurus was different. It was a herbivore that used those huge claws not to kill, but to defend itself and pull branches toward its mouth. Imagine it walking through a Cretaceous forest, 3 tons of muscle and feathers, moving slowly between the trees, using its arms like giant tools to reach leaves. Each step was careful, each movement calm, as if it knew it didn't need to run from anyone. Even the most dangerous predators like Tarbosaurus thought twice before attacking something with claws that could tear through armor. Its head was small, its mouth filled with leaf-shaped teeth perfect for chewing plants, and yet its eyes were sharp and aware. It wasn't a mindless grazer. It watched the forest, listened to every sound. Therizinosaurus was both gentle and deadly, a creature that looked peaceful, but carried the weapons of a warrior. When the sun set, the forest glowed orange and dust moved through the light like smoke. Therizinosaurus stood tall among the trees, its shadow stretching long across the ground. The air was quiet except for the soft rustle of leaves and the occasional crack of branches as the giant fed. It was a living contrast, graceful yet terrifying. At night the forest changed. Small creatures hid in their burrows, and hunters moved in the dark. Therizinosaurus was too large to hide, but it didn't need to. Its massive arms spread wide as it stood still, listening to the sounds around it. The distant roar of a predator, the chirp of insects, the whisper of wind through the trees. A pair of small eyes appeared in the bushes, a young raptor drawn by curiosity and hunger. The Therizinosaurus turned its head slowly, almost calmly. The raptor moved closer, thinking it had found an easy target. Then, in one fast motion, the Therizinosaurus swung its claws. The sound was like a tree snapping in half. The raptor screeched and ran back into the dark. The Therizinosaurus did not chase it. It simply returned to its quiet stance, breathing slowly as moonlight shone on its feathers. It was not a hunter, it was a guardian of its own space. No roar, no rage, just strength and control. That was the real power of Therizinosaurus. The arms of Therizinosaurus were its most mysterious feature. Each one was longer than an adult human, ending in 3 curved claws, each nearly 1 meter long. They were sharp, but not like knives, more like strong farming tools designed to grab, cut, and pull. At first glance, they looked made for killing. Anyone who saw the skeleton for the first time thought, "This must be a predator." But the truth was more surprising. Those claws were made not for hunting, but for reaching. Therizinosaurus used them to pull down branches full of leaves, to bring food closer, and even to defend itself when necessary. When scientists studied the arms closely, they found something strange. The bones were light but strong, built more like wings than like the arms of a T-Rex. It could move them wide and smooth, like a bird spreading its feathers. Each swing of those claws covered almost 3 meters. It didn't need speed, it had reach. One move and no predator dared to come closer. But even though they looked deadly, Therizinosaurus was gentle with them. It didn't crush trees or break rocks. It moved with care, as if it knew its power could be dangerous. That's what made it so different. While other dinosaurs survived by force, this one survived by balance, knew how to use strength without chaos. Therizinosaurus spent much of its day standing tall, stretching its long arms toward the treetops. Sometimes it would drag the claws through the dirt, making deep marks on the ground. To other dinosaurs, those marks were warnings. This place is taken. Even massive predators like Tarbosaurus avoided the forests where the clawed giant lived. Imagine being near it, hearing the sound of its claws slicing through branches like knives through thick wood. The air filled with falling leaves and the smell of fresh bark. Each time the Therizinosaurus moved, small animals ran away, sensing the vibration through the ground. It didn't roar, it didn't chase. It ruled with silence. But those claws were not just for food or defense. Some scientists believe they were also used in displays, to attract mates or show dominance. When two males met, they didn't always fight with bites. They faced each other, spreading their arms wide, claws shining in the sun. The one who looked more confident often won without a fight. Power through presence. That was the way of the Therizinosaurus. Its claws became its voice, its armor, and its legacy. When it died, those claws remained buried for millions of years, waiting to be found. And when people finally uncovered them, the world once again felt the mystery of the creature that ruled with silence and strength. Therizinosaurus lived deep in the forests of Asia, where sunlight broke through the trees in thin golden lines. This was its world: tall ferns, thick fog, and the quiet sound of wind moving through leaves. While most dinosaurs preferred open plains or rivers, this giant felt at home among shadows and trees. Its long claws were not a burden here. They were perfect for pulling down branches and moving gently through the forest. It walked slowly but with purpose. Every step was heavy yet calm, as if the creature trusted its own rhythm. Didn't fear predators, not even the mighty Tarbosaurus. Its claws were enough to make any hunter think twice. When other dinosaurs saw it from afar, they stayed silent. Even in the wild world of the Cretaceous, Therizinosaurus was respected. Its diet was simple: soft leaves, fruit, and young shoots. Sometimes it stood on its hind legs, using its long arms to grab food high in the trees. Its curved neck and beak-shaped mouth made it easy to strip leaves without destroying the branches. It didn't waste, it took only what it needed. That's why the forest around it stayed alive and green. But even peaceful creatures have to fight to survive. Young Therizinosauruses learned from their mothers how to move quietly, how to sense danger, how to use those claws only when needed. They grew fast, covered in soft feathers that shimmered under the light. Some scientists think these feathers were used for display, showing health and strength to others. To them, survival wasn't just about power, it was about wisdom. When the day ended, the forest became a darker, colder place. Mist drifted close to the ground, and strange sounds echoed through the trees. Therizinosaurus didn't hide. It stood tall, its feathers slightly moving with the wind. Its large eyes caught the faint light of the moon, glowing gently as it watched the night. A herd of smaller dinosaurs passed by, ornithomimuses, running nervously through the shadows. They sensed something, a predator nearby. And then, between the trees, a silhouette appeared. A young Tarbosaurus moving slow, head low. The forest froze. The ornithomimuses vanished into the fog. Only Therizinosaurus stayed. It didn't roar or attack. It simply lifted its arms, claws gleaming under the moonlight. The Tarbosaurus hesitated. It had never seen such a sight. A giant that didn't flee but also didn't strike first. After a long moment, the predator backed away. The balance was restored. For another night, the forest belonged to the clawed guardian. In the world of the Cretaceous, every step could lead to a meeting. Some peaceful, others deadly. Therizinosaurus wasn't built for speed or fierce battles, but its size and claws made sure no one ignored it. Most dinosaurs learned early. This was not a creature to challenge without reason. One day, a young Tarbosaurus entered its territory, following the smell of fruit and decaying plants. The air was thick and hot, and the forest echoed with the sounds of insects and rustling leaves. Therizinosaurus stood near a clearing, calmly feeding. It noticed the predator long before the Tarbosaurus saw it. When the hunter stepped out from the shadows, their eyes met. For a moment, time stopped. The smaller predator froze, unsure. The Therizinosaurus raised one massive arm, claws glinting under the sunlight. No roar, no movement, just silence and presence. The Tarbosaurus growled once, then stepped back. The message was clear. This land was already claimed. Therizinosaurus turned away, unbothered, as if nothing had happened. It didn't seek fights. It avoided them by showing strength. That was its way of survival. Even giants could live peacefully if they commanded respect. Later that season, a group of velociraptors entered the same forest. They were small, fast, and always hungry. Their yellow eyes followed every movement, and their calls echoed between the trees. Therizinosaurus didn't fear them. It knew they hunted in packs, but they were still too small to face it directly. The raptors circled, testing it from a distance. One made a quick dash forward, snapping its jaws, then ran back. Another climbed a fallen tree, watching for weakness. The Therizinosaurus stood tall, not moving an inch. Then suddenly it swung one of its long arms. The claws cut through a thick branch which crashed to the ground in front of the raptors. The sound was thunderous. Dust filled the air. The raptors hissed and scattered, disappearing into the dark undergrowth. The Therizinosaurus exhaled softly and returned to feeding. The forest became quiet again. It wasn't the king of the land, but it was something rarer. A ruler who needed no war to keep peace. Not all guardians roar. Some protect their world in silence. Therizinosaurus was one of them. For years it lived in the Green Valley, a place filled with rivers, tall trees, and endless ferns. Here, life followed its own rhythm. Mornings were soft and misty, evenings golden and calm. And in the middle of it all stood the clawed giant, peaceful but always alert. When smaller dinosaurs like Gallimimus or Oviraptor wandered too close, it didn't chase them away. Instead, it watched. It knew the valley had room for everyone, as long as there was balance. Therizinosaurus wasn't just a survivor, it was a part of the forest itself. Every move, every breath, every sound it made seemed to belong to the rhythm of this place. But sometimes that peace was tested. Hunters from outside the valley, young Tarbosauruses or packs of raptors, entered the land thinking they could take it. The forest went quiet when they came. The smaller dinosaurs hid, and then the protector appeared. With one slow step after another, Therizinosaurus moved out from the trees. Its claws caught the light, bright as polished bone. The air felt heavier, almost electric. Predators stopped. They understood. This was not prey. This was the guardian of the valley. And the forest itself seemed to breathe easier when it arrived. Once, during a dry season, fire broke out near the river. Flames moved fast through the grass. Animals ran in panic. Therizinosaurus didn't run. It stayed near the edge, breaking branches and pushing them aside to block the fire's path. When the wind changed, it moved to higher ground, using its claws to pull down burning wood and create a barrier. The smoke covered the valley for days. When it cleared, the damage was smaller than anyone expected. Plants began to grow again. Life returned. And from that time on, the dinosaurs that lived nearby seemed to follow the clawed one wherever it went. Some even rested near it like birds on a safe branch. Years later, when storms came or predators returned, they found it still there, standing tall, silent, and calm. It didn't protect the valley because it had to. It did because it was part of it. That's why, even after millions of years, when only bones remained, the shape of those long claws still told the same story. That power isn't always about strength. Sometimes it's about peace. The world of the dinosaurs was always changing. Seas moved, mountains rose, and forests appeared where once there were deserts. For creatures like Therizinosaurus, time was both a gift and a test. It had survived droughts, predators, and storms, but the earth never stopped changing. As the climate grew hotter and rivers began to dry, plants started to disappear. The Green Valley, once full of life, slowly turned silent. Therizinosaurus walked its familiar path, searching for food, for the soft leaves it once loved. But every year there were fewer of them. Other dinosaurs moved away. Smaller, faster species that could adapt to new lands. But the guardian stayed. It didn't chase, it didn't fight. It simply continued its life as it always had. Calm, slow, unafraid. Even when storms shook the sky and lightning hit the old trees, it stood still under the rain, as if it knew that its time was ending and it accepted it. One evening, as the last light faded behind the hills, the Therizinosaurus found a quiet place near the riverbed. The air was cool, the wind gentle. Rested there, surrounded by the sound of water and leaves. The world moved on, but its story was written, not in words, but in the earth itself. Millions of years later, when humans first found its fossils, they were shocked. Huge claws, longer than any known predators, but shaped not for killing, for balance, for feeding, for defense. It changed what people thought they knew about dinosaurs. They called it Therizinosaurus, the scythe lizard. At first they thought it was a hunter, a deadly creature like Tyrannosaurus. But then the truth came out. This giant had lived peacefully, surrounded by plants and forests, a reminder that not all power is violent. In museums today, its bones stand tall. Children stare at the massive claws, imagining battles and adventures. But those who study it closely see something else. A creature that survived not because it was fastest or fiercest, but because it understood the world around it. Its story is more than history. It's a lesson that even the strongest creatures can live in peace, that balance and wisdom can protect more than claws or teeth ever could. And though the valley it guarded is long gone, the legacy of the silent giant still lives in every forest, in every rustling leaf, and in every creature that chooses peace over fear.